Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi alamin. Wassallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ala imam al-mahdi wa sallim tasliman katsira. In the name of Allah, merciful and extreme merciful, all praise to Allah, the Lord of the universe. Peace and blessings be upon Muhammad and his purified progeny, and salam to all my friends. Today, I want to talk about the supremacy of God. What is supremacy of God? Supremacy of God is one of the most important religious doctrine, the doctrine of God's religion, which says and which believe and put an emphasis to the fact that only God has the right to appoint the leaders for humanity, for His creation, and only God has the right to execute and to introduce His divine law into His creation. In other words, only God has the right to appoint leader for humanity and for His creation, and only this appointed leader has the right to uphold and to execute the rule of God, the law of God, and the law from which means that the law from His religion. This appointed leader may also be known as the prophet, messengers, and imams, or sometimes in the Quran it used the word Khalifa, which means the vicegerent. The Torah, the Gospel, the Quran, all of these three divine religious books all support the doctrine of supremacy of God and form a compelling evidence to all Jews, Christians, and Muslims that only God has the right to appoint leaders for them. So we see sometimes the theories of democracy like Spinoza sometimes have to distort certain verse from Bible, from the Gospel, in order to ensure that this doctrine does not be in the way of supremacy of people, the concept where people appoint other people as their leader. In the book The Supremacy of Allah, written by Syed Ahmad Al-Hassan, it has been discussed with great detail about the supremacy of Allah, the supremacy of God, and the era of supremacy of people. It is said that from the book, Syed Ahmad Al-Hassan said, in the Quran, from its first page to its last page, all of this verse is in support of supremacy of God, and it does not in any way condone or support the supremacy of people. We are not interested in any faulty or erroneous interpretation of Quranic verse for example, by certain Islamic groups, in order to protect some of individuals or figure that those groups consider holy. We will read and use this verse as it is, as literal as it is, because there is no need for interpretation for the following verse, that the verse certainly support the supremacy of God and deny the supremacy of people. Okay, now we will go through several of the verses in the Quran which prove to the supremacy of God. The first verse is surah from Surah Ali Imran, verse number 26. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qulillahumma malikul mulk tu'ti mulka mimman tasha' wa tanzi'u mulka mimman tasha'. Say, only God is the possessor of sovereignty, and He gives that sovereignty to whoever He wish. Surah Ali Imran, verse number 26. So you can check this verse out. It is clear as the light of the sun. After this verse, there is no more room for us to think that any person has the right to appoint anybody as ruler, as a leader, because sovereignty belongs to God, and only God appoint leader for anyone. So obedience is only to the one appointed by God, not to the person or individuals appointed by the people. Syed Ahmad Al-Hassan also pointed out that the leader appointed by God, whether they are messenger or prophet or imams, does not necessarily have the chance to rule, because history has proven to us most of the time they are subdued, they are defeated, and sometimes killed by the tyrant or ruler they are ruling at that time. History also proved that only very few people follow the prophets, the messengers, and leader appointed by God, the Khalifa of God, the successor of God. Abraham, peace be upon him, does not rule, but the rulership is given, is held by Nimrod. Moses does not rule, but Pharaoh rule. Al-Hussein, peace be upon him, does not rule, but the rulership is held by Yazid. This is because those tyrants are empowered by the people. People has left the appointment by God in favor of people, of an individual that they feel deserve rulership. But most of the time, those people are tyrants and oppressors, which only do corruption in this earth. In the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse 34, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, فَقَدْ آتَيْنَا آلِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَآتَيْنَاهُمْ مُلْكًا عَظِيمًا. Verily we have given to Ibrahim the great kingdom. Surah An-Nisa, verse 34. So, from this verse, it is said that they have given the family of Ibrahim, family of Abraham, his progeny, the great kingdom, which means that God has given them a rulership. But unfortunately, we see from the history, they does not rule because they are defeated by the oppressors, by the tyrants. Nevertheless, the verse directly stated that rulership is from God, and God gives to whoever He wills, whether or not the people or the creation support the God's appointment. The next verse from Quran is have given us the example at the time of Talut in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 246. In this verse, you guys can check it out for yourself. You can read it. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 246. It is said that several chieftains of Bani Israel, from the children of Israel, has asked a prophet to ask a God to appoint for them a king, so that they can fight under this leadership of this king. So this is a great proof of supremacy of God, where people at that time which believe in the supremacy of God has asked God to appoint for them king. Not that they themselves appoint the king, but they ask God to appoint the leader for them, so that they may fight under his leadership. The third verse from the Quran is from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 30. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa iz qala rabbuka lil malaikati inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. It is said that God has said to the angels that He wants to appoint a Khalifa on this earth. Khalifa may also be translated into a successor or vicegerent in English. So this also means that this is the representative. The leader appointed by God is also a representative of God in the realm of creation. The Khalifa is a ruler appointed by God to lead and to rule over his creation. The first Khalifa is Prophet Adam, peace be upon him. And every time and place, the earth will never be empty from the appointment by God, because the leader appointed by God exists at every time. The earth will be never empty without appointment by God. So the current vicegerent of God is Al-Mahdi, peace be upon him. And Al-Mahdi must not be opposed by any sort of man-made political system, whether election, democracy, or whatever it is, because we owe to him our allegiance, we owe to him our loyalty, because he is the vicegerent of God, because he is the leader appointed by God. And the fourth verse is from Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 44, verse number 45 and 47, which says that whoever does not rule by whatever has been what has been decided by God is a wrongdoer, is an unfaithful, and is a rebellious person. Please check it out, this verse, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 44, 45 and 47, which says clearly that we must judge by the rule that has been written, but has been decided by God. Of course, in leadership, okay, a leader will face a new problem, will face some new problem that can only be settled by a person that have been given God-sightedness and inspiration by God. For example, today we see a new fatwa is issued on daily basis on many new issues that does not been mentioned in Quran. For example, like cloning, nuclear weapons, and other daily issue that does not be mentioned in Quran. So all these clerics only use their own opinion and their own ijtihad in order to determine a new rule to face new issues that exist every day on daily basis. So which one will you follow? The fatwa and or the ruling from the people that does not have connection with heaven, or the viceroy of God that has been appointed by God himself? Of course, it is clear choice that we will choose the viceroy of God. So that's it. Those are several verses from the Quran. There are tons of them, of course, but I will not elaborate on this verse any longer. I think 4 of the verses that I have given tonight, which is has been argued by Sayyid Ahmad Al-Hassan in his book Supremacy of God, is enough. The first is Surah Ali Imran, verse 26, which says that only gods have the sovereignty, and only gods give that sovereignty to whoever he wish. Okay. The second verse is the example of Talut, when the clerics, the chieftains of Bani Israel has asked God to appoint for them kings. The third verse is from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 30, which says clearly that only God has the right to appoint the caliph or Khalifa, the viceroy and the leader for his creation. And the fourth verse is the command from God to follow the rulership, whatever has been decided by God in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 44, 45 and 47. Please check this out. For the rest of the verses that prove the supremacy of God, you guys can read from the link below. I have shared it with all of you. It is more concise and more complete form, so I will not take a lot of time discussing those verses. From here on, it can only be concluded that Quran constitute the supremacy of God, and no single verse from Quran give the rights of any people to appoint other people as a leader, because it is said that only God can appoint leader for humanity, for his creation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.